College lacrosse is back. Let's talk about it. What's up? Welcome to the first episode of the Crease Violation with Collin Smith. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be where you find your podcast. We're here to just talk college lacrosse because there's no better time of the year than when February rolls around and the boys start playing. I'm a freshman here at Syracuse University studying broadcast and digital journalism. I'm a lifelong lacrosse player. I played high school at Gonzaga College High School. I was a goalie. I've played club for multiple teams. I'm on the club team here at Syracuse. Shout out the MCLA. Maybe we'll touch a little bit on that some point throughout the season when the MCLA gets here going. But right now we're talking NCAA Division One men's lacrosse. Across from me is the JMA Wireless Dome, home of the Syracuse Orange. Syracuse is looking good this season. Some people are saying the question around the lacrosse world is Syracuse back. They've been asking this for a long time. We're going to touch on that. We're going to touch on some D3 games, maybe D2 if the people want to hear it. We're going to talk about games throughout the week. We're going to talk about predictions. We're going to talk fantasy lineups on IL fantasy. We're going to talk, just anything in the lacrosse world. Maybe we'll start to get some guests on, maybe some Syracuse players, maybe some of my other friends and former teammates from around the lacrosse world, some coaches, some analysts. I don't know. We're going to try. We're going to see what it is this lacrosse season. I'm just here to talk ball. You'll be able to leave comments, DM me on Instagram. I'd be willing to have anyone on the show just to talk a little lacrosse. But nevertheless, it's week one. I'm currently recording this on Thursday, January 30th. College lacrosse starts on Saturday. The first game is Wagner versus Manhattan. Not the most exciting matchup. That's at 11. But that noon slate gets the ball rolling. We're back. We're back with college lacrosse. I love it. The ESPN Plus account is ready to log in, ready to watch all the games I possibly can. I got Inside Lacrosse bookmarked. The hours are going up on it, checking everything, doing the fan picks, doing the previews, doing everything I possibly can. And it's an exciting season ahead. Let's just take a look at the rankings to begin with. Of course, we got Notre Dame coming off back-to-back national championships. It's a legendary program. It was a long time coming for a lot of Notre Dame fans. You look back at the Scotty Rogers not making the save in overtime in the national championship to now being back-to-back national champions. The Irish fans are really happy, and I think they're excited still because guess what? They're number one again. It's because you got to put them number one until they prove you that they aren't. It's what you got to do. Yeah, they lost Pat Cavanaugh. Yeah, they lost a lot of people on that team. But you got Chris Cavanaugh coming right in, filling his brother's footsteps. We saw him. People were afraid if he's going to fill that quarterback role. I think he had 5 assists in one of their scrimmages they showed. He's ready. He's ready to fill that quarterback role. And plus, I'm going through this Notre Dame roster, and I'm like, Jake Taylor? Jake Taylor's still in college? I was like, Jake Taylor still has eligibility? How? How? It feels like he's been all over college lacrosse. Notre Dame still got him down there, and he can get you a goal. This attack unit is going to be just fine. Okay, even losing the Torton winner, Pat Cavanaugh. And this Notre Dame team, they're still deep. You got Jordan Faison. You probably heard his name multiple times during the college football playoffs. He was a star on the football field. Just wait for his sophomore year on the lacrosse field. Remember that. He was a freshman last year, and he was still making an impact for this Irish squad. I love what I see. I don't know if they're going to be my national championship prediction. They might be, but you got to have them number one until they prove you otherwise. It's just how it is. It's a great team. They're well coached by Coach Corrigan. There's nothing else to say. There's nothing else to say. They got so many good players. So many good players. Championship pedigree. They know how to get there and they know how to win. Nobody has won more than the guys that are wearing the blue, the gold, and the green in college lacrosse right now. So, you got to leave them there. And then coming in at number two is Syracuse Orange, where I'm at school. And I talked about it at the beginning of the show, but is Syracuse back? And people have been saying that for a long time. It's the Gary Gate era. It feels like if they're gonna make that splash, Orange fans are hungry for just a Final Four appearance. It's been a long time for Orange fans. And they're hungry and they think that this is the year. It's the junior year for Joey Spallina. They got Owen Hilt still down there on the attack unit. This is such a strong team. I do think that there's a lot of questions. I think especially in the departures of the seniors from last year, I think Jake Stevens was one of the best players in the country. I thought the way that he attacked the wings, I thought the way that, he got in there playing D midi, playing O midi, just I thought that he was such a contributor that there's nothing I don't know what is going to be there to replace him, but the Syracuse team, everyone's a lot of fan of it, and Joey Spallina is a lot of people's Torton pick, and it's going to be interesting to see what he can do in his junior year, wearing that 22. What is that step? What's that next step he can take? Because you know, last year losing to Denver in the playoffs, disappointing not being able to make the Final Four. I think a lot of people were wondering what's that next step that this team can take, and I feel like this is the year because they're returning, like I mentioned, Hiltz. On defense, you got what are the names? Sorry, I should be more prepared pulling these up. But you got Sam English at midfield. Like this Syracuse team is just stacked full of talent. Billy Dwan was the name I was looking for. Great on defense. You got Michael Leo in the midfield as well. I mentioned Hiltz, Ben Thompson. Look for him to run a little attack this year. I think that he's going to bump down a little bit. I don't know 100% what's going to go on, but you got a lot of guys. And Figueres out of St. John's College High School. One of my rivals. I went to Gonzaga College High School in DC. One of our rivals. Figueres is a lockdown defender. I mentioned two names there. I think they're a well-rounded team. It'll be interesting to see what the pickup is with the production loss from the graduation of Will Mark. In my opinion, probably second or third best goalie in college lacrosse last season. I don't know. The goalie room's solid. They got, I think Jimmy McCool is what I'm hearing is going to start on Saturday. Potentially Ippoletti, also Braden Ferguson, the freshman I heard has been in the mix. It'll be interesting to see. I think that's probably the biggest question mark for this Orange team is where, they're kind of where they're losing from the seniors last year because they lost a lot of talent, but they also a bunch of guys are a year older and ready to get after it. I think we'll see if this Orange team can finally make their Final Four. And then I talked a lot about Notre Dame and Syracuse. Obviously, very excited about this year for the ACC. Duke. I'm going to talk about Duke next. IL has them ranked at 7. This Duke team, there's a lot of questions around it because when you lose a guy like Brennan O'Neill, a superstar, the pinnacle of college lacrosse, a superstar. Their offense is going to look completely different. Along with Dyson Daniels, also leaving that Duke. That Duke attack, I think, had more points than like 20 college lacrosse teams last year. Like that Duke attack team was ridiculous. But what am I looking for this year? It's Andrew McAdory. It's the Andrew McAdory show now down in Duke. This team, it's going to look very different, without O'Neill. I think McAdory is who they're gonna have to lean on for this offensive production. I think they look similar that they did on defense last year. I look for them to be solid. It's just I think when you lose a guy like O'Neill, who was such a polarizing force, the Superman player for this team, I think it's going to open up their offense to kind of be able to play through a lot more players rather than just O'Neill. Not saying that O'Neill was a selfish player because that offense was fantastic last year, but it's going to open up, I think, some new roles, a lot of guys to be able to get a lot of new touches. And I think it's a new era. It's a new era for a lot of people in college lacrosse. A lot of teams are young. A lot of teams also, a lot of seniors last year. You look at last year's PLO draft, full of talent, just absolutely full of talent. We had those top 3 off the board. We had those top 3 attackmen. Sorry, not the top 3 picks, but those top 3 attackmen, Schellenberger, O'Neill, Kavanaugh, were all Torton finalists. And I mentioned Schellenberger. That brings me over to UVA. Another big production loss. Both for UVA, Peyton Cormier, Connor Schellenberger out, McCabe Millen in. It is going to be the McCabe Millen show. There's McCabe Millen as a sophomore is being thrusted into being this number 1 guy for this UVA squad. This UVA squad that IL has at number 6 ahead of Duke. I personally would have Duke a little bit ahead of UVA right now, simply because I worry for McCabe drawing the number 1 attack as the number 1 attackman, drawing the number 1 defender. Now, last year he looked great. When you had Cormier and Schellenberger drawing other guys number 1, number 2 defenders. Obviously, he was too. I'm a little worried about him drawing that number 1 defender. I say worried. He's probably going to prove me wrong. He probably is. But it's going to be a big step up for him as a sophomore, getting that number 1 guy. He was running out of the box a little bit at the end of last year, trying to get a short stick matchup on him that'll be more favorable. He's not going to be able to do that this year because Schellenberger's not there to draw all that attention. He's not going to be able to escape getting on a lower pole. That's what this offense is going to go through. I also have questions on the UVA defense a little bit. Matthew Nunes struggled at the end of last year, was notably pulled during the playoffs, and I believe he's not going to get the start at the beginning of this year from what I'm hearing down in Charlottesville. But I'm not sure. I'm not 100% positive about what's going to come out, when they take the field. That UVA, solid team. I think UVA and Duke are going to be very similar, kind of rounding out that portion of the ACC. But that takes me down to North Carolina. North Carolina is my sleeper team of the year. I love this North Carolina squad. I love this attack unit on this North Carolina squad. Specifically, my favorite part about this North Carolina squad is the goalie, Mike Giafacaro, the transfer from Princeton. I think he's going to take this team to a completely new level. I think that when you add a guy like that, Mike Giafacaro, in my opinion, is the second best goalie in college lacrosse this year. I think adding a guy like that, I think it's going to be I think they're going to fly under the radar. And it's the attack unit for me that it's fantastic. You got Duffy, the star freshman from last year. Duffy was fantastic. You got James Matten, my former high school teammate, fantastic weapon. You know, next to Duffy, I think that if he's one of them's not going to get the team's number one defender, and that's a matchup problem for them because they're just not going to be able to hang with them. And it's just this UNC team. They're full of firepower. I think that they're going to finish ahead of where people have them. Currently, IL has them at what does IL have them? IL has them at 16, below teams like Michigan and Penn State. I think UNC is going to come up with some big late season wins that are going to shock a lot of people, and I think they're going to make noise in the ACC. Maybe an ACC championship appearance for the UNC Tar Heels. I don't really know. I don't really know. But it's a great team overall. They added Andrew O'Barry, another Gonzaga guy out of the grad transfer from Harvard, and he's a great defensive midfielder. I think I think bringing in two transfers from the Ivy League, I think is going to do absolute wonders for this team. But let's move on from the ACC a little bit. I feel like I've been talking about enough. Probably a little biased as a Syracuse student, very familiar with the ACC. And next up, I love the Ivy League this year. I think the Ivy League has some star-studded teams. I think Cornell, I think Princeton, I think Yale. I think they're all going to be good. They might beat up on each other, similar to the ACC does sometimes. And the Ivies, they both beat up on each other a lot during the regular season. But I think that this Cornell and Princeton team, I think they stand out above the rest. That Yale team, that Penn team, close behind that Penn team, love the goalie at Penn. I think that defense is solid at Penn. I think that everything. I just love this Penn team. I think Emmett Carroll in goal is going to do a lot. It just. I think they're gonna lean too much on Emmett Carroll is what I'm scared of. I don't know. I don't really know too much about what's going to go on with that offense, but they should be a solid squad. But it's that Princeton and that Cornell team that really I think that's got to be your Ivy League championship. I could see both those teams easily making the Final Four weekend. Memorial Day at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. I think Cornell and Princeton kind of similar to I think it was 2021 when both of them made the Final Four. Cornell is fantastic, and Cornell has my Tewaaraton favorite, CJ Kurse. CJ Kurse is my Tewaaraton winner. There's your prediction. I think he's got the keys to this Cornell offense. It feels like he's been there for a million years. You always hear the Kurse name in college lacrosse. You know it's going to be good. You got a lot of that. You got at your first team attack, according to Inside Lacrosse, CJ Kurse, Chris Kavanaugh, Joey Spallina. When you hear those three names in college lacrosse, those are three legendary names, and that's three guys that are just going to continue to build that legacy for their family, for their teams, for their colleges this year. And I think CJ Kurse, I think it's his time. I think I think he can lead this team to a national championship. I really do. I think that Cornell is deep. I think that Cornell is gritty, a little central New York grit. It's been cold up here. They're fighting. He's got Michael Long over there on attack with him. And then they've just got a plethora of midfielders in that honorable mention section. Hugh Keller, Wilhelm Firth, Chris Davis. I just think this Cornell squad, I think they're very well rounded. I'd look for them to do well. And then it's that Princeton team. It's that Princeton team with that attack unit from last year that you remember, the freshman, Nate Kabiri, fantastic player. also faced off against him in high school. I think Princeton's also well-rounded. I think that losing Gianfrancaro is big in goal. I don't really know too much about the replacement there for him down in New Jersey, but this Princeton team, another year, you got Coulter Mackesy and you got Burns on the attack unit. I know I'm talking a lot about attack, but that's the firepower. Everybody loves offense. That's what people want to look for in college lacrosse. So that was a little insight into some of my top teams of this year. I'm also gonna take a quick minute. Almost forgot the Big Ten there, and I'll mention the Big East too. Maryland. I don't know what to expect out of this Maryland squad. First time that the number one is going to a goalie, Logan McNaney. Shout out him. Shout out goalies everywhere. You can be the best player on your team and be the senior captain, getting that special number. Just look at Logan McNaney, the national champion. And I don't know, this team excites me. I think that there's some questions on offense. I think Spencer Ford, the freshman, is going to be a day one contributor. I think I don't know too much about this team. I think Maryland is more excited about themselves than anybody else is. I think, Tillman's a good coach. You can't bet against Coach Tillman. I think he thinks this year's team is good. They're well rounded. It's just there's a lot of unknowns with Maryland just because it's gonna it's we're saying McNaney. Like he's gonna have to be he's gonna have to be the best, one of the best he's gonna have to be the best goalie in college lacrosse for them to win this national championship, I think. Because you look at it on the preseason, first, second, third, and honorable mentions, McNaney's the only name appearing there for Maryland. And that's not what Maryland's used to. So it's gonna be I don't know if it's a transition year. I think Maryland overly performed last year to making the national championship. I think that they got hot in the playoffs at the right time. I don't think they supposed to be there. I say that in air quotes because I don't think people expected that. And they looked good in the playoffs, but it's going to be interesting to see, no more Ajax Zapatello there on defense. There's a lot of retooling that, we're just going to have to see what happens with Maryland in their early games. They got Richmond week 1. Could be a close matchup, probably won't be because the Terps, at the end of the day, are indeed the Terps. What else on the schedule? We got Hopkins. I like this Hopkins team a lot. They did lose. I think Garrett Degnan is a big loss for them. They got the transfer goalie from Loyola, who I believe is going to be their starter. Name is slipping me right now, but they reload in that transfer portal, getting another Baltimore guy. They're losing their go-to rocket goal scorer in Degnan, but I think that they'll still have a good year. I think that Hopkins, they got a lot of pieces, and they're this is them and Syracuse is what everybody was like, oh, are they back? Are they back? And I think last year is when Hopkins. I think Hopkins and Syracuse are just in similar boats here. You want to see them do what everyone thinks they can do. Russell Melendez had that great sophomore year campaign for Hopkins. Didn't have the same production he wanted to see in his junior year as a senior. Coming back to Homewood Field, they're going to lean on him. They need him. I think that this Hopkins team can do a lot. It's just it's it's just a question of can they put it all together. They got Kilrain on defense. I think he's a good defender. I picked him up on IL Fantasy this week. There's just a whole lot of questions about college lacrosse is hard to talk about. If you've listened this far, maybe I don't know all my ball, but hopefully throughout the season we can learn more about these teams together. It's just Hopkins. I talk about Hopkins and Syracuse, two fan bases that want to see something soon. But I think that Syracuse is just better fitted for it this year. I think that this Hopkins team is going to be good. I think that week 1 matchup against Denver is going to be very telling. It brings me to that Denver squad. Similar. I don't know much about them. I don't know much about the Big East teams, Georgetown and Denver. Know that they're 10 and 11 in the rankings. I think that these week 1 matchups I think are going to tell a lot. Like they told a lot last year when Denver upset Hopkins. That really got Hopkins' drive going, and that's what kind of ignited the rest of their season, what they were able to build on. But I think this Denver team is probably a little overrated just because of them reaching the Final Four at the end of last year, beating Syracuse to get there, looking good in the playoffs. I think that they're probably going to fall off a little bit. Georgetown, I think they want that Big East title, but they're gonna have to take down Loyola week 1, which they weren't able to last year. So It's gonna be an interesting time. You got teams. Just read through the rest of the rankings. Army always will be solid. Always a good team. Favorite to come out of the Patriot League. I mentioned Penn State. They got Jack Frassion in goal. We'll see how he can contribute. We'll see what he can do for these Nittany Lions. I don't think it's the Nittany Lions year though. I think that was 2 years ago when they made the Final Four. I don't really think this is a Final Four caliber squad. Same with this Michigan. Some people say it's Michigan's year, but I don't. I just don't. I think that it's when I say I don't think it's Michigan's year, I don't think it's that time that they make that jump up to the upper echelon of the Big Ten, like everyone thinks they are, because they perform well in the Big Ten tournament the past 2 years. They turn it on at the end. I don't know if the regular season is going to be there. So watch out for Marquette upsetting them week one. You got Towson, don't know much about them. Harvard, solid Ivy squad. Ohio State, I think slightly overrated. Richmond, see how they do against Maryland week one. There's a lot of solid teams and a lot. It's a re. I don't know if reload is the right terminology, but it's a rebuilding. I know it will say reload. It's a reloading year here in college lacrosse. Like I mentioned, so many guys lost last year. The COVID eligibility years are starting to kind of cycle out a little bit as we see we're now in 2025. So, those fifth years, it's all kind of coming to an end. Last season and this season, we're seeing really the end of it. So it's a lot of new faces, a lot of recruits, a lot of young guys with a chance to make an opportunity early. I'm just excited. I'm just excited to watch some college lacrosse. Let's go through the week one matchups real quick. I mentioned Wagner, Manhattan. Manhattan should take care of business early. Lafayette versus Air Force. Don't know much about either teams. I'm taking Lafayette. Shout out to my brother Luke Smith, Lafayette class of 2018. Take it Duke versus Bellarmine. Nobody's taking Bellarmine. Nobody's taking Bellarmine. Bellarmine, if you can win this matchup, I will do the next episode outside in 19-degree weather and snowy. I'll do that if you can. Bucknell versus Merrimack. Bucknell, I think, has a solid squad. Georgetown versus Loyola. This is probably one of my favorite games of the weekend. One to watch out for. I'm taking Loyola once again. Upset Georgetown. Probably a bad pick. Probably should not listen to me, but I'm taking Loyola. Hopefully that gets that maybe Georgetown just gets ignited week one by me picking Loyola rather than having Loyola kick them in the mouth because they need to get woken up and they need to be ready to start off this season. Mercer versus Hampton. Hampton hasn't won a Division One game in 3 years. I'm going to take Mercer. Navy versus High Point. I want to say give me High Point, but it's Navy. I think Navy is going to turn some heads this year in the Patriot League. Iona versus Hofstra. Iona's first Division One game. Shout out to them. Shout out Charlie Shear, my boy on this inaugural Iona lacrosse team. Do they get their first win again against Hofstra? No. Give me Hofstra. Keep going down the list. Providence, Holy Cross. I think Providence will have a solid season, finishing around the middle of the Big East. Maybe they can make some noise. I'll take Providence. Syracuse versus Jacksonville. Give me the Cuse. They're saying, are they back? I don't know. They need it. They're going to bring out a statement win to let the lacrosse world know that they are back. Give me the Cuse and cover, whatever the spread is. I think they got it. I think they got this one. It's going to be big. It's going to be in the JMA Dome. I should be there, I think. I don't think I have any conflictions to walk across the street for the game, but we'll see how it goes. We got Lehigh versus Rutgers. Lehigh is always a solid squad, but I like Rutgers a lot this year. I don't know why. Shout out Ryan Splain, our LSM, former high school teammate. I don't know. I like this Rutgers squad for some reason. Give me Maryland over Richmond. Give me Mount St. Mary's over Queens. I think Queens could, second year in Division One, take a few steps up. But give me Mount St. Mary's. They looked good against St. Joe's in a scrimmage the other day. Shout out Jack Slater, my buddy on the team. I don't know. Let's see what this Mount team can do. I don't know if they're going to make noise, but I think they're going to beat Queens. Next up, we got Utah versus Ohio State. Give me the Utes. Okay, Ohio State. Give me the Utes. I don't know what about this Ohio State team. Maybe I don't know if it's The athletics program is what operating at like a $32 million deficit or saw some statistic like that because they care about football there and they put all their money in football. They care about football at the school. They all just won a national championship in football. I think the players are still thinking about that and they're not going to get off the bus, or I think it's a home game. They're not going to get off the bench when it comes against Utah. Give me Utah in that matchup. Colgate versus Penn State. Early season Colgate is always dangerous. Early season Colgate is always good. This Penn State team is solid, but early season Colgate, they had that upset last year. Can can early season Colgate be that upset team again? I'm saying yeah. Give me Colgate. Michigan versus Marquette. I hinted at it earlier in the show. I don't know what these official predictions. I don't know if you want to gamble on this or something, or I don't know if I'll put a graphic up or keep my record. Maybe I will, but I like Marquette against Michigan. I just think Michigan's going to start slow like they always do, and then not always do. I don't really know if they always start slow, but they're always kind of middle of the pack and then do well at the end in the Big Ten tournament. Give me Marquette, and then Hopkins, Denver. Give me Hopkins. They're angry. They want revenge after last year and the overtime loss. Hopkins week one. That rounds out your first college lax Saturday. One game on Sunday. Same St. Bonaventure versus VMI. Give me the Bonnies. I don't know why. I don't know nothing about either team. I know Woj just took a job working at St. Bonaventure. I think that gives them grit. I think that makes them grit. I think that makes them excited. It's a fellow New York team. Give me St. Bonaventure. That rounds out the picks for week one. I'll give you my final four prediction, and I'll give you my Twarton prediction. I'll give you my champion, and then that's gonna wrap up the first episode of the Crease Violation Show. Find it on YouTube. Find it where you listen to your podcasts. Follow me on Instagram at Collin_P_Smith. Also follow the sports page where this will be posted. Collin_Smith_sports. And this is gonna be posted on Collin Smith TV on YouTube and the Crease Violation podcast on Spotify. I'm just excited for this year. I keep mentioning it, but it's just a fun year to be a college lacrosse fan. For my final four, Notre Dame. Like I said, I'm taking them till they tell me not to, till they prove me that they're not going to be there. We're taking them. Two, give me Cornell. I mentioned it. I like this Cornell team. CJ Curse. My Twarton. There's my Twarton prediction. CJ Curse. Give me Cornell in that second slot. And then number three, this one's tough. 3 and 4, I think, is where it gets tough. Give me the Cuse. Give me Orange. Do it for me. This is their year. They're saying it. They're saying that they're back. And, hopefully we see them there up in Boston at Gillette Stadium. I'm excited. I think that there's some questions, but I think they're ready to answer them. I keep having questions about this Orange squad. What can they do? What holes can they fill? Are they taking that next step with Spallina as this main guy? I think they're ready to answer them come Saturday and the rest of the season. In that four slot, I want to put Princeton. I want that double Ivy, but I just don't know. I think that attack unit is still a little underdeveloped. You got Maryland there, you got Virginia, you got Duke, give me Hopkins Final Four. I talked about it. I mentioned it. Cuse, Hopkins, are they back? They both prove it this year. They're both going to the Final Four. National champion, give me Cornell. Give me CJ Kirst. Little maybe potential, Central New York matchup. We'll see it in the regular season down on Long Island. Maybe a Syracuse Cornell national championship. I hate picking against my. Do I just pick my orange? I don't know. I'm gonna go unbiased. I'm gonna go no biasy towards the orange. That's why I'm going with Cornell. Just because I love CJ Kirst's game this year, and I don't want to appear as this biased guy, but watch out for the orange. I think they're the real national champions. They need to answer my questions first, and then I'll pick them as my national champions. But right now, we're gonna go with the early season prediction as Cornell. I think that about wraps it up for the first episode of the Crease Violation Show. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. Subscribe, follow me. I don't really know. I don't know what this is going to turn into. Maybe we'll start having some guests. Maybe I'll take more notes and come a little bit more prepared next time. Maybe we'll have some more analysis. Maybe we'll do some live game coverage. I don't know. This is just me talking ball, because I love college lax, and I think it's gonna be a good time, and I think we're gonna have a good season. All right. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.